include reducing the odds of developing heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. Maybe you want to lose weight, lower your blood pressure, or prevent depression, or just look better. Here's another reason we really don't focus on when exercising: the better functioning of our brains. Exercise helps your brain to function better. Your brain is no different than the rest of your body. You utilize the gym to stimulate growth of muscles, so why not stimulate the growth of your brain cells? You can actually get an additional brain boost by throwing on some sneakers and exercising, especially aerobic exercise. Exercise have a positive effect on brain function, ranging from the increase of blood flow to the brain, which helps in the production of neurons, and the increase of the size of the hippocampus, which leads to better memory, learning, and motor function, and eventually improving one's mood and reducing depression. Now come explore with us as we tell you how exercise affects your brain.
The human brain is an incredible organ. It controls everything our body does. It coordinates our movement and speech, processes and interprets sensations, maintains proper bodily functions, and even stores memories. The average human brain weighs around 1.5 kg and is fed by a network of blood vessels that provide the brain cells with the much needed oxygen and nutrients. The brain can be divided into 4 main sections: the cerebral cortex, which is split into 2 symmetrical hemispheres, the limbic system, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. The bulk of the brain is the cerebral cortex. Each hemisphere is separated into 4 lobes with different functions. The frontal lobe is responsible for decision making, problem solving, and planning. The parietal lobe receives and processes all sensory information. The temporal lobe is responsible for memory, emotion, hearing, and language. The occipital lobe controls vision. At the center of the brain is the limbic system. This area is most known for controlling learning and memory, namely in the hippocampus. The cerebellum controls movement, posture, and balance. The brainstem controls basic life functions such as heartbeat, breathing, and blood pressure.
Blood circulation is an important part of our body's overall function and health. The blood carries oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and other parts of the body where it is needed. But you already knew that, huh? Not only that, it carries waste products, carbon dioxide, to the lungs, kidney, digestive system, so that they can be removed from the body. And you knew that too. Constant cerebral blood flow is vital to human survival. Your brain, being the center of control, demands a nourishing blood supply to work properly and survive. However, the brain is shown to experience increase in blood flow during exercise. When you exercise, increased activity in your muscles trigger an increased need for oxygen-rich blood. To meet this vital need, your heart rate speeds up and the blood flows to your body increases. Blood flow to your brain also increases, although the extent of this increase may depend on the intensity of the exercise you perform. 15 to 20% of oxygen-rich blood reaches your brain through your internal carotid arteries and your vertebral arteries. Inside your brain, your internal carotid arteries branch out and form 2 main additional arteries called the middle and anterior cerebral arteries, which supply oxygen-bearing blood to the front of your brain. To prove this, Dr. Sina Aslan, founder and president of Advanced MRI, used an arterial spin labeling MRI to measure brain flow and detect changes in the brain during exercise. One key region where she saw an increase in brain blood flow was the anterior cingulated cortex, which indicates high neuronal activity and metabolic rate. The anterior cingulated cortex has been linked to superior cognitive in late life. Furthermore, exercising regularly will promote the growth of new brain cells in your hippocampus. These new brain cells help boost memory and learning. According to Sandra Bound Chapman, founder and chief director of the Center for Brain Health, states that persons who exercise showed an increase of blood flow to the hippocampus in the brain, the key region affected by Alzheimer's disease. Additionally, when blood flow is increased to the brain, a number of neurotransmitters are triggered, such as endorphin, serotonin, dopamine, glutamate, GABA. Some of these are well known for their role in mood control. Exercise, in fact, is one of the most effective prevention and treatment strategies for depression. The neurons are also supplied with an increased supply of oxygen needed to function and perform their tasks. Exercise is able to increase blood flow to the brain, which some researchers speculate is one possible cause of the increased creation and survival of neurons. In addition, exercise helps increase synaptic plasticity, which is the ability of neurons to change the shape or pathways in response to different demands by the brain. When not enough blood is flowing to the brain or blood flow is disrupted by a blockage in the carotid arteries, problems such as stroke, mild cognitive impairment, and dementia occurs. When you work out regularly, your brain gets used to this frequent surge of blood and adapts by turning off and on genes, which keeps your arteries clear and allow constant blood flow. Not only that, you stay focused and alert all day.
As explained, when exercising, additional blood flows to your brain, providing extra oxygen and nutrients to your neurons. Scientists believe that this additional oxygen and nutrients helps to stimulate the production of new nerve cells in the hippocampus. Because neurons are responsible for perception, memory, and everything else in the brain, increasing their number is like stocking up on new neurons for a time when your brain becomes damaged from disease or loses nerves as it ages. These extra neurons add up and become part of what scientists have coined brain reserves. One of the earliest clues about exercise-induced changes to the brain came in the late 1900s when a group of scientists decided to compare the brains of mice given unlimited access to an exercise wheel, the runners, to those of mice without exercise wheels in their cages, the non-runners. Compared with the non-runners, the researchers discovered that the physically fit mice had double the number of new nerve cells in the region of the hippocampus, an area in the brain involved in learning and memory. When the scientists later taught runners and non-runners to navigate a maze, they found that the runners learned the task faster than the non-runners and took a more direct route to the end of the maze. Fred Gage, a neurologist at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies, who led both studies, explained that the researchers were very surprised to find that the physical effects of a mouse affect the number of new brain cells and impacts its ability to remember things. As people get older, it is natural for some regions of the brain to shrink. For instance, studies show the hippocampus shrinks 1 or 2% annually in people without dementia, a loss that is associated with an increased risk for developing cognitive disabilities. In a study done at the University of British Columbia, researchers found that regular aerobic exercise, the kind that gets your heart and sweat glands pumping, appears to boost the size of the hippocampus, the brain area which is involved in verbal memory and learning. Resistance training, balance, and muscle toning did not have the same results. These results were recently published in the British Journal of Sports magazine. These findings have come at a crucial time because researchers have determined that one new case of dementia is detected every 4 seconds globally. They estimate that by the year 2050, more than 15 million people will have dementia worldwide. How does this affect you, you say? Well, according to statistics compiled by the Health and Information Research Unit of the Ministry of Health, in the Bahamas in 2011, dementia was the 6th leading cause of death in adults over the age of 65, with a total of 34 deaths being attributed to dementia. Of these, 20 were females and 14 were males. These 34 deaths accounted for 3.5 of the total deaths seen in persons over 65 that year. In other words, for every 100,000 persons over the age of 65 to die in the Bahamas, just about 154 of these persons died as a result of dementia. Seeing that exercise has been found to increase the volume of the hippocampus, people who exercise have a more keen memory and learning abilities than people who don't. According to recent studies, even people who fail to take advantage of regular aerobic exercise until later on in life are still able to gain from exercise in their senior years. Art Kramer of the University of Illinois and his colleagues recruited a group of healthy, sedentary adults from ages 55 to 80 to participate in a year-long exercise program. These adults were divided into two teams. One spent their time walking for 40 minutes 3 days per week, while the other performed a variety of strength and balance exercises during this time. At the start, middle, and completion of the study, researchers used MRIs to measure the volume of the hippocampus. The size of the hippocampus increased by 2% on average in adults that completed the walking regimen and also improved memory. In contrast, the participants who completed a year-long balance and strength training exercise program experienced a 1% decrease in the volume of their hippocampuses. These important findings indicate that aerobic exercise training is effective in reversing hippocampal volume decrease in late adulthood.
Just one session of aerobic exercise is enough to spark positive changes in the brain that can lead to improved memory and coordination of motor skills. A study conducted by the researchers in the university's Robinson Research Institute has found changes in the brain that were likely to make it more plastic after only 30 minutes of vigorous exercise. The study involved a small group of healthy people aged in their late 20s and early 30s who rode exercise bikes. They were monitored for changes in the brain immediately after the exercise and again 15 minutes later. They said, "We saw positive changes in the brain straight away, and these improvements were sustained 15 minutes after the exercise had ended." Plasticity in the brain is important for learning, memory, and motor skill coordination. The more plastic the brain becomes, the more it is able to recognize itself, modifying the number and strength of connections between nerve cells and different brain areas. Associate Professor Ridding says past research has shown that regular physical activity can have positive effects on brain function and plasticity, but it was unknown whether a standalone session of exercise would also have similar positive effects. He said, "We now have evidence suggesting that it does. This exercise-related change in the brain may in part explain why physical activity has a positive effect on memory and higher level functions." He also says, "There is now mounting evidence that engaging in aerobic exercise positively influences brain function in many ways, at cellular and molecular levels, as well as in the brain's architecture." Although this was a small sample group, it helps us to better understand the overall picture of how exercise influences the brain, he says. We now know that plasticity is also important for recovery from brain damage, so this opens up potential therapeutic avenues for patients. Further research will be required to see what possible long-term benefits could be for patients as well as healthy people. Exercise helps memory and thinking through both direct and indirect means. The benefits of exercise comes directly from its ability to reduce insulin resistance, reduce inflammation, and stimulate the release of growth factors, chemicals in the brain that affect the health of brain cells, the growth of new blood vessels in the brain, and even the abundance and survival of new brain cells. Many studies have suggested that the parts of the brain that control thinking and memory, the prefrontal cortex and the medial temporal cortex, have greater volume in people who exercise versus people who don't. Even more exciting is finding that engaging in a program of regular exercise of moderate intensity over 6 months or a year is associated with an increase in the volume of selected brain regions, says Dr. Scott McGinnis. Aerobic exercise increased anterior hippocampal volume but had little effect on the posterior hippocampus. Neurons in the anterior hippocampus are selectively associated with the spatial memory acquisition and show exacerbated age-related atrophy compared with the posterior hippocampus. It is possible that regions demonstrating less age-related decay might also be less amenable to growth. Thus, aerobic exercise might elicit the greatest changes in regions that show the most precipitous decline in late adulthood, such as the anterior hippocampus and prefrontal cortex.
Exercise can be a great way to lift your mood and improve your emotions. When you exercise, your body feels more relaxed and calm.
Getting a visit from Mr. Sandman may have gotten a bit easier. That is, if you're willing to work for it. The National Sleep Foundation released a study saying exercise leads to better sleep and that working out right before bed doesn't hinder your ability to get some shut-eye. The study monitored the exercise and sleeping patterns of 1,000 people. It discovered 83% of exercisers said they had good sleep compared to 56% of people who don't exercise. 67% of exercisers said they had a good sleep on most work nights compared to 39% who don't exercise. Exercise was defined in the study as doing at least 10 minutes of some physical activity.
When stress affects the brain with its many nerve connections, the rest of the body feels the impact as well. So it stands to reason that if your body feels better, so does your mind. Exercise is known to be one of the most simplest and most effective ways to reduce stress. Healthy physical exertion is a natural outlet for the body when it is in the fight or flight state of arousal. After exercising, your body returns to its normal equilibrium and you feel relaxed and refreshed. Exercise also produces the neurotransmitters called endorphins, chemicals in the brain that act as natural painkillers. These endorphins can make one feel calm and relaxed, which in turn reduces stress. As soon as you realize that you're suffering from anxiety, you immediately seek out treatment. You may go to your doctor to talk about medicines, or you may start searching for a therapist. You may try to take a more natural approach and use herbal remedies. You may try all of these things. But what you may want to know is that there is a method of managing anxiety that is considered as powerful as some medicine. It's a method that is not only side effect free, but it might even make you healthier. There is a method that you can easily integrate into your life right now, and the only thing you need to buy for it is some new shoes. What many people don't realize is that daily exercise alone may be powerful enough to drastically reduce their anxiety. Studies have shown that time and time again that there is an incredibly strong relationship between exercise and anxiety. One that can actually tip the scales towards living an anxiety-free life. It may sound like an excuse to get you exercising, and it may sound like a pipe dream. It's neither of those things. Exercise really is extremely effective for anxiety management, and something that will make a big difference in how you deal with anxiety. For some people, exercise alone may actually cure their anxiety, but for everyone else, it will at least be a benefit. Thought that exercise influences the brain. I'm here with Alexis Scott and Zandra Bowling. Normally when we think of exercise, several words come to mind. What words come to your mind when we think of exercise?
Weight loss, gym, water, healthy eating.
But we don't really think about the cognitive development. Neither boosting brain power nor improving memory comes to mind.
So you're telling me exercise is do all that?
Exactly. That's exactly the effect that exercise has on the brain.
What type of exercise?
Aerobic exercise. You know, aerobic exercise includes things like walking, running, swimming, kickboxing, and the gym like you said. Even basketball, you know the boys them on the court? Basketball. Home activities such as raking the leaves or other yard work.
Sweeping the house. Boosting my brain power.
That's exercise.
Then mopping days.
So what is aerobic exercise?
The type of exercise is boost your heart, keep your heart going, increase your heart rate, get you sweating.
Okay, so how long does it have to be for it to be aerobic exercise?
About 20 to 30 minutes. For me, 5 minutes. That's how good I is. Good for you.
These same exercise include cognitive functions such as ballroom dancing. They have a higher demand for mental and physical compared to just mental or physical tasks alone. Aside from aerobic exercise, what are some mentally stimulating exercises or activities that could be done to keep the mind sharp and improve memory, as well as decrease the risk of developing dementia?
Reading, crossword puzzle. Come to COB.
Really?
Yes. It boosts
That's a
your
workout
mind.
for you. Some other things. What about painting?
Oh, learn new language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It sounds like it's the simple things we do that boost our brain power.
Exactly, because continuous challenges and learning throughout life keeps the brain active and reduces the risk of dementia.
You mean like using the muscle?
Right, brain training exercises. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll be discussing several foods that are good for the brain.
Well, I do it all the time.
Really? Whew. You guys meet? Greg, Janice?
We sure did.
That was stupid.
Welcome back. As promised, before the break, we will be mentioning several foods that are good for the brain. Now, I remember Mama. Mama always used to talk about these blueberries, how they improve the motor skills as well as the overall learning capacity. She even went to say that berries on the whole had flavonoids. Flavonoids that reverse aging on the brain and actually improves memory. But the best for brain were the blueberries. But they still had them blackberries, which I didn't like too much. But they were filled with antioxidants that were good for boosting the brain. Okay, let's take to the lines. Caller you live.
Hi, good evening. I know that you're speaking about boosting the brain and foods that affect the brain, but I was wondering, what about nuts? What about nuts and seeds? Do they boost the brain as well?
Yes, that's correct. Many nuts including peanuts, cashews, hazelnuts, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, almonds, and other nuts and seeds are very good for brain health. These include omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids as well as folate, vitamin E, and B6, which help you to think more clearly. These nuts are great for memory, cognitive function, and brain nourishment.
We always hear about salads. What salads have to do with anything?
Salads ain't got a thing to do with your brain. It's cabbage and spinach. They're excellent for the brain because they're filled with iron, and high iron contents, help the brain improve cognitive activities.
So what about the protein like fish? Does fish have an effect on the brain?
Yes, fish is very beneficial to brain health. Fish is high in omega-3 fatty acids, and one serving of fish a week can help prevent your risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Alzheimer's free.
The best type of fish to eat to protect your brain health include salmon, tuna, and herring. Fish contains omega-3 fatty acids, and these fatty acids line neurons and help them to move more smoothly throughout the brain. Eating fish once a week can lower your chances of contracting Alzheimer's disease. Types of fish that are good for brain health include salmon, herring, and tuna.
And would you believe that chocolate actually helps with brain health? Yes, chocolate, the food we actually eat, the yummiest food on the planet Earth. I can't believe it. So, scientists have found out that 2 to 3 tablespoons of cocoa has enough antioxidant as a glass of wine. So y'all wine drinkers out there, eat some chocolate. Not milk chocolate now, dark chocolate. So go out there and eat some dark chocolate to boost your brain health.
Well, we've come to the end of another show. This has been the Brain Stirs. I'm Olympia.
I'm Alexis.
I'm Zandra.
And this was Let's Talk Live.
Overall, exercise dramatically increases the performance of the brain. It aids in the production of new neurons, improvement of learning and memory, promotes less stress and a better mood. It also increases blood flow to the brain and increases the size of the hippocampus. Now why are you still watching this video? Get up and go exercise!